Moving ahead to the recount, the first one that is, in DeKalb County on Sunday, November 15th, I arrived at that facility. The observation process was very difficult. The tables were set up in groups of 16, yet we were only allowed one person for every 10 tables, so that was difficult to manage through. We were required to be 6 feet away from the tables and as well as the personnel, despite our being issued a required mask by DeKalb County. After growing frustrated with trying to watch this process, I tried to find somewhere where I could go add some more value. So I decided to stand behind a table where the two workers were actually entering in the signed vote totals into the Arlo system for the final count. I was standing about 6 feet or so behind the workers while I could not see the computer screen to validate what they were entering into the system. I was able to read the sheets that the person was providing to them. So I decided I would start taking notes on that in case there was an opportunity to provide an audit or something that was necessary to cross-reference what was actually submitted and what was actually input into the system. After a while, I was able to see a pattern of what I would expect in terms of the vote totals. I'd ballpark that around 1,500. And one came through that was a serious red flag, and that one came through at 10,707 votes for Biden and 13 for President Trump. And so I turned to the person that was next to me and said it to her, but loud enough so the workers in front of me could hear that, and that was that 10,000 votes for Biden, that can't be right. And wanted to make sure that they heard that, so that it would get flagged. They then whispered amongst themselves for some time, trying to figure out what to do. Eventually, a manager was called over, and I followed that paper and that manager through the process. She went towards the back of the room where they take the ballots in and out and spoke with two other workers. I stayed some distance back because of requirements, but yet I could make out the fact that they were trying to ascertain what that vote total was as well and why it was that way. They also discussed about whether or not to make that change on their own based upon what they thought that the two counters had meant for that total to be. Although they did, I think they decided not to do that because one, they looked over at me, made some eye contact, and the conversation changed to a whisper. But at the same time, they were also talking about they could not determine how that error had occurred or fraud because the numbers didn't match up. It wasn't a decimal, it wasn't a digit issue. It was so significantly wrong. Later through that process, I decided to engage Mr. Tillman, who was who I understood to be the election director for DeKalb County there, and informed him of the issue, let him know the serious concern that I had, and that we discussed recounting that box. He went and verified that with his team, and he came back and agreed that that 10,000 count couldn't possibly be right. And we worked out an arrangement to where I would follow that box through the rest of the process, through the recounting process, to ensure that it was counted correctly. And we had a new team come in about 45 minutes later. I watched and observed that process. I think the new team that came in did an excellent job. And that final vote total for Biden ended up being 1,081 and not 10,707 as initially submitted and signed off on by the two counters to be going into the system. So 9,626 vote difference.